facing the entirety of the evangelical movement is just this basic idea that credibility is eroded and ultimately lost when Christians are throwing themselves into political causes on a basis of things, arguments, ideas that are not rooted in fact.
Right, and you make the point that pretty much any poll is going to tell you that white evangelical Christians are, and this is the way you phrase it, the most opposed to vaccines, most convinced that the 2020 presidential election was stolen, most inclined to subscribe to QAnon conspiracy theories. So why is that? What is it about this group that makes them so susceptible to buying into this kind of misinformation and then spreading it?
For one thing, it's just at a basic level easy to see how, white evangelical Christians who are theologically and culturally conservative and who would form sort of this unlikely alliance with Donald Trump at the time that he became the Republican nominee in 2016, that those are the same folks who would find themselves most vulnerable to, if you will, to being persuaded about things like a stolen election. In other words, the people who were the most committed and engaged Trump supporters would then become the most committed and engaged believers when it comes to this idea that the election was stolen for Donald Trump, for instance. I do think that there is something deeper. If you have been steeped in this rhetoric of and that somebody like that is the only one who is willing to stand up and fight for your values, but now he's lost this election under suspicious terms, and the government in blue states is telling you that you can't go to church anymore. You add all of this up, and it seems to some of these people like there is this sort of grand conspiracy to eliminate evangelical Christianity from American life, and that's not much of an overstatement.
Wow. And speaking of support for Donald Trump, you point out that 81% of white evangelicals supported Donald Trump for president in 2016. So they played a substantial role in helping elect him. So how is that election a kind of turning point for the evangelical movement? And as you write, the beginning of its unraveling. You have big concerns about this.
Donald Trump's victory in 2016, which was powered by the white evangelical movement, could be seen as the height of that movement's power, but also as the beginning of its decline, because on the one hand, you have prominent evangelical Christian leaders in this country who had more access to the highest rungs of political power in this country than they'd ever had before. In that sense, there's no question that the transactional relationship between Trump and the evangelical community did prove beneficial for a time. On the other hand, you have to consider this question of credibility, and Christian leaders ceding some of their credibility, some of their moral credibility, by aligning themselves with someone who is manifestly sort of antithetical to many of just the core values that have been preached in these churches and preached by these same evangelical leaders. And so what you see in public polling and what you see anecdotally on the ground is not just church membership in decline and sagging confidence in the institution of the church, but inside the evangelical movement today, you have massive conflict between people who feel like the church has gotten too political versus people who feel like they haven't gone far enough because they think that this is sort of their last opportunity to preserve their influence in this country.
Really interesting. So this split within the church is exemplified by these two preachers, this firebrand super preacher Bill Bolin and Ken Brown, who talks about the need for discernment. And you write that both parties believe there is a war for the soul of the American church within the church, right?
That's right. Having been on the ground for the past year in churches all across the country and talking with pastors and just everyday churchgoers, it's absolutely true and it's apparent that the institution itself is really at sort of a fork in the road, and you see massive movement of people leaving churches that they've been a part of for 10, 20 20, 30 years and relocating to new churches because those churches reflected their political values. For generations in this country, you have had people who consider their political affiliations in the context of their faith. And now what you're seeing really for the first time is people beginning to consider their faith affiliations in the context of their politics. And that just represents a sea change in American life.
Incredibly profound. That's Tim Alberta. He's a staff writer at The Atlantic. His latest article is How Politics Poisoned the Evangelical Church. And you can find a link to that article at hereandnow.org. Tim, thank you so much for your reporting. It was very good to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
And you're listening to Here and Now.
And you're listening to WHYY-FM. Good afternoon, I'm Priyanka Tiwari. It's at 2:31. When inflation started rising last year, many economists said it would be transitory. Translation, it's going to stop. Well, it hasn't. In fact, inflation in the U.S. has risen to its highest point since the Reagan administration. How exactly did we get it so wrong? We'll explain. Marketplace Minute. You can also listen to WHYY.
American consumer keeps spending. I'm Nova Safa with the Marketplace Minute. The Commerce Department says retail sales in April far outpaced inflation, rising 0.9%, led by spending on cars and electronics and at restaurants. Sales in March were revised upwards to 0.1% growth, double the gain previously reported. Meanwhile, a mixed picture from some of the nation's marquee retailers. Walmart cut its full-year profit forecast today and said earnings in its latest quarter fell despite more sales. The retailer is contending with higher costs for food, fuel, and labor. Home Depot earnings increased. Sales are holding up among home improvement professionals despite higher costs for lumber and surface. The Marketplace Minute.
Marketplace Minute is supported by WorkHuman. Without the human, just work. This WHYY.
Political crisis keeps growing. We've got coronavirus things still, the Russia-Ukraine thing still. Inflation is still an issue. Gas prices are still surging.
Sobbing over this.
We've got states rolling back reproductive rights. And the odds of overturning Roe v. Wade while the country is running out of peace.
It's incredibly stressful to be facing an imminent shortage of the food and the child needs to live.
But what's extra nice about this is that a whistleblower came forward to the Food and Drug Administration last year. This particular crisis could have been averted. We're going to figure out what went wrong in today's story. I'm Sean Ramaswamy. This is Helena Bottomiller-Edich.
I'm the senior food and agriculture reporter at Politico.
And before we talk about this baby formula crisis in the United States, we asked Helena to give us a quick